Welcome to another episode of the Best Damn Coach. It's Amanda here. I'm so excited that you're joining us this week. This is always my favorite week on the show when we have an existing member of our community, a client come on and really talk about their coaching journey, their coaching practice, and all of the success and breakthroughs they've had since coming along with us. And the reason I bring clients on is actually as we were getting ready to hit record, I think one of the questions we ask ourselves as a perspective, as a person seeking perspective mentorship is like, will this work for me? What's different about this? And we're going to get into that. But I think that's why I love having my clients on, because they do illuminate that and shed that light. So I'm so excited to have Erica join us. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
You are. If you guys need to catch the YouTube video as well, because when you see Erica's face, she's just like this big beaming light of energy, which is very appropriate for the work that you do. Um, but I want to just circle back and have you share a little bit more about your work. You were not always a coach. And I think that's important to highlight because so many of us come from a journey not in the coaching space, right? And so you were a yoga teacher before, you did other things. So I want you to just rewind the clock a little bit before we talk about the work you're doing now and just tell us what were you doing before?
Yeah, so I started my journey actually in administrative work and human resources. So I've always worked in the health field. I've worked in health sales, and then I went to business school and got my master's degree. And I really was excited to have a career in human resources. When I got into human resources, I realized what I love the most is helping people to develop and grow. And at the very same time, part of me was also being drawn more deeply to my spirituality. And so I did become a yoga teacher and I became a healer. And I do think that was always with me and always inside of me, but it really had a chance to flourish in like my early 20s. And what's interesting though is the very first thing I ever wanted to be before I even got into business school was a coach. But at that time, I didn't
I
really
didn't
know.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
that
know
was
that.
like it was in my heart, but I didn't really know how to do it. And I loved school, I loved education, I loved business, so I really just naturally went that route. And then loved spirituality, loved health and well-being, so then I went that route. And eventually, they started to come together. But it has been quite a journey to navigate the different identities of being in business school, being in human resources, being a yoga teacher, being a healer, and then transitioning to like fully embodying being a coach and combining all of that skill set and all that experience into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has been part of the journey.
Which now, as you say, pieces of it, I kind of have this like major clarity around your journey. You know, I always talk about like your current vantage point it makes you perfectly suited to help your former self. And it really does pull all your life experience truly does make you perfectly suited to do what you do because there is this contrasting energy of those things, this business school, human resources, which I would define as very go, doer, masculine energy you know, theoretically, not, I don't want to make a rule of it, but in general. And then we move to this flow side, which is the yoga, the softness, this slow down. And I think it's amazing because that leads right into the discussion of what you do now. So tell us a little bit about how this kind of road ends up you coaching the people you do now.
Yeah, so now I work with leaders, coaching leaders, whether they are CEOs, executives, or even I really define leadership as someone who is leading in their life. So whether they are leading their team, their organization, or whether they are leading their family and themselves, because I do think leadership starts with us. And what I've noticed, because I do work with a lot of women, is that they may not initially call themselves a leader because of the misunderstandings of leadership over the decades.
Yeah, fair enough. Mhm.
Yeah, so I really love working with leaders and I like to empower leaders to realize they are leaders, but then to also support them to either overcome burnout or prevent burnout. Because what I'm noticing working with organizations and people who run their own businesses is because there is so much giving, because there is so much output, there often isn't as much time for connection with themselves, with spirit, with how they connect with spirit. And it is leading to like mass burnout and mass exhaustion in the business world, like in entrepreneurship, but also in the corporate world. And so I'm really passionate about helping those people because I really do feel like I know them because I've been to business school in my undergrad and in my master's, but I also feel like I have those solutions to help them because of the decade I spent doing healing work and yoga work.
Yeah, I love that. Let's speak specifically about that client because they might be listening or the people listening to the show know people that could use your services. What's kind of maybe the 1 to 2 greatest pain points? So when a client you're talking to a prospective client on a sales call or you interact with them somewhere, what are the 1 or 2 things they're saying that are just really leading to burnout?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with literally the overwhelm of what they have to take in. So they're taking in social media. Many of the people I work with are parents, so they're taking in all the things their kids want to share with them and all their things the kids are doing, and then they're taking in everything at work. There's just so much overload of input that there is overwhelm for them. And because there's very little time for them to actually connect with themselves and the things that are important to them or how they used to know themselves, they start to feel this divide between who they are and like what's actually happening in their life and in the world. So I think that's one of the biggest things is just there's so much that they're taking in. There's so much input that their threat bucket or their capacity bucket, if you will, is just exploding.
Ooh, I like how you just called that a threat bucket. I don't know if that's a common term. Is that your term or is that did you coin that term?
No, that's a common term in
Oh, I
the
don't know
world
that
of the
in the burnout.
nervous system.
Okay, okay, I don't know that in the burnout space so much, but I have, like, such a great visual. I mean, capacity bucket, yes, but threat bucket. I mean, I see that, and I we talk in the BDC constantly, even as coaches, that there's no shortage of information, right? The time is the shortage to implement said information, and so
Mm.
I think that what you're saying is relatable on all levels to all humans that exist right now in the world that we are. So, I mean, in so many ways, your ideal client is pretty much everybody that exists. I know we're zooming more in leadership, but I think that this is a across the board opportunity for so many of us to really get laser focused.
And if I can speak to that, the reason that I do love to focus on leaders or people that see themselves as leaders or that leadership is inside of them is because of the wide ranging impact that I know is in their heart and that they want to have. And sometimes they say like, oh, I feel like this is soul crushing, or I feel it's like their spirit, their soul, their heart, it just like wants to be expressed, but there's no capacity to fully express it. Or in the expression of it, their health is suffering or their mental and emotional health is suffering. And so I really love to support people to get to flourish in all important areas of their lives, but especially those that have such a desire to help the world and serve the world in their own unique way. I really see it as like a ripple effect. If I'm helping that
Totally.
person, then it's that ripple effect in the pond that all the people they might be serving and helping.
It's
Yeah.
the secondary impact, right? Which is what we love in that
Yes.
coaching community too. Have you read the book Rushing Women's Syndrome by Dr. I want to say it's Libby Weaver, but I don't know if I'm making that up. Have you read that book?
Oh, I have not.
Okay, I'm going to give you this metaphor because I need you to have it, but I need everybody to have it because it's so powerful. And so she speaks basically of like this frog analogy. And so, if you put a frog from room temperature into a pot of boiling water, so already boiling water, it's going to frantically try to get out of the pot. But if you were to put that frog into a pot of room temperature water and slowly over time turn it to a boil, it actually has the ability to adapt. And it's not like clawing its way to get out of the pot. And so she usually uses that metaphor to really talk about us as human beings is that, especially as women, is we slowly turn our pot to boil. It's like we went from high school and then we go to put ourselves into college, university, and we're turning up the temperature, right? The demands are increased. We're learning how to adult. We're learning how to navigate the world independently. And then typically we put ourselves into more formal relationships, which now being in a partnership with someone, now we're like having to think about their needs and the demands go up. And then perhaps we parent, we move careers, we change careers, we elevate careers. And the entire time we're turning up the boiling water, and we just don't even realize what internally we've done to our nervous systems. And when I read that book and I heard that analogy, it has just stuck with me so hard on how society values that turning up like the badge of honor, like, woohoo, look at my pot. It's hotter than your pot. But I think that it just really speaks to volumes of what you just referenced as
Mhm.
well.
I love that metaphor. And it reminds me of how, and I think especially for women, but I've worked with men and women, and I do think it happens across the board, just the level of comparison.
Mm.
And usually the comparison is happening over social media, which we all know is not, we're often people are putting the best of the best on social media, not their entire range of their life. And then we're now comparing based on what people are posting, and it creates more stress and more tension and more of that kind of comparison struggle. And I think it adds to that pot being turned up, the
Totally
heat
agree.
being turned up more.
Yep, totally
Yeah.
agree. So I want to fast forward to us meeting. We had the opportunity to first meet inside of the Framework Builder Lab. And if you guys have not jumped into the lab, definitely this is my shameless plug right now to head on over to Amanda-Walker/lab and jump in. But Erica was one of our students in there at first. And I loved having her in the lab because she's so intuitive. And really, what I want to just celebrate you is you really, and not to say that everybody in the lab doesn't, but there is this part of you that is so attentive to the needs of your clients, and you just really wanted to nail the framework that you created so that it really felt like you could represent the entire journey of what you create with your clients in this framework. And I think you supremely did that. But I'd love for you to share why'd you jump into the lab to begin with?
I was actually looking for help creating a framework. I
Oh,
did
well, that
really,
makes
yeah.
you perfect.
I did. This is how I manifest things. I'm like, what I would like next is, and then it has its way of magically showing up. And you magically showed up through an email list I was on that wasn't yours, and then I did a free training of yours, and before I knew it, you were advertising for the framework builder. And I was like, yeah, I do believe I'm at a place in my journey where that would be really helpful for me to articulate more clearly the path I take people on.
Hmm. Hmm.
Obviously, when I'm working with people and helping them with their health and wellness, their spiritual journey, and recovering or preventing burnout, it's not always linear. But to help someone understand like the path that I am gently guiding them through, even if it isn't fully linear, even if we take a step back and then we take 3 steps forward, it really did help me to capture literally a decade of work into one diagram that I could
Woo!
easily communicate to people. Yes. And so when I saw you advertising, I was like, this is definitely what I need where I'm at in my business and in my even communication with clients and potential clients.
I love it. Perfect timing. I like something you said in there though, because I think this resonates is your clients, just like the rest of the coaches listening, are not robots. And I
Yeah.
think that sometime is the hesitation or the struggle. I mean, you could probably hear it from your fellow students in the lab is that everybody's hesitant because each person is unique that we get to work with, and they're not always going to follow this perfect linear progression. But really, like, if you don't have a plan, that is where we start to lose sight of what's possible when it comes to coaching. And a framework is the guide. And then supplementing is what we call behavioral flexibility. I talk a lot about this in the lab. This is where that art of coaching is really bred. And so we have this framework that we're able to communicate clearly to people externally in our marketing, but also with clients. But then there's this Erica-ness that comes through, and that's the art, of the coaching piece when we're like, oh, I was going to take my client to the next step of the framework, but what I realize is they're not really ready. And so I'm giving myself permission to move slowly through this phase. And so um, I want to like talk a little bit about your framework and what you feel like really came from the lab. So if you want to talk about your methodology or like the light bulb moments for you, just share, what was the greatest learning for you?
How much time do we have? I could talk about these learnings for hours. Um, First of all, I do really love the way, and I think at the time, I'm not sure if you still call it, but like the reverse design method, like
Yep.
literally how you took us from the end to the beginning. That was so helpful for me because for all of us coaches, we do have a path that we take people through. Whether or not we've written it down on paper before, it exists in the ethers. And you just literally beautifully crafted a way for us to see that come to life in an image, in words, in a bit of a linear form that literally helps keep us organized as coaches, but also helps our clients feel like, ooh, I'm supported, I'm safe, I'm taken care of. Like this person knows where they're taking me and where we're going. And I think every good coach is, of course, going to customize and adapt based on the person in front of them. But it doesn't mean that we don't have some type of outline. And I think what really helped too was understanding how to then take the framework and infuse it into everything. Because I know for me, sometimes it can feel like, oh man, there's so many things I could be doing. There's so many things I could be saying or sharing. And having a framework to base it on, I'm like, I could speak to part one of my framework. I could speak to part
Yes.
two. That really helped me organize like messaging for social media, for my email list. Um, Again, it just gives organization to something that is vast. Obviously working with other humans and coaching, it's vast, but
Totally.
it gives some organization and structure and like safety to that because people do want to feel like they're held when I think when they're in a coaching scenario, they want to feel like you're going to be able to take them to the results and the transformation. I do think frameworks help with that. I do also feel like the way that you like everyone should take the framework workshop because literally there is so much misunderstanding about frameworks
Mhm.
in the world of social media and online business, and the way that you teach is so authentic, and it really does pull out the framework that is in each of us as a coach. And it's
Mhm.
not about cookie cutter. It's not about everyone doing the same thing. It's literally about how do we take our beautiful, expansive work and put it into some system that someone who's never met us before can quickly understand what we do, how we do it, and that we can help them. So that has been
Yeah.
helpful. And also, you helped me. My framework is called the Energized Leader Formula. And you got to know me very quickly in those 6 weeks and you helped me to name it. And I've since like tested the name with new clients and potential clients, and it is on point.
Yes,
So
I love hearing that. I
that has
remember
been
that,
amazing.
I remember
Yes.
that particular brainstorming session because it was fun. It was just, I mean, there was a lot of great brainstorming, and I think that's the benefit of the live coaching sessions. If you opt into the FBL, you can do the FBL now independent study, or you can do it live. But that is the benefit of those is, two heads are more powerful than one, and sometimes we're stuck in the bottle, right? We have insider blindness and we're so in our work that somebody that doesn't really know our work can sometimes empower us with new fresh ideas that can really simplify it, and we're really meeting that ideal client where they're at instead of where we are at, which is further along in the journey.
Oh, and to that, the other thing that was really big that you helped me with, and I think many other people that were in the cohort I was in, was taking the intangible and making it tangible. Because where
Mhm.
I had come from, working years in yoga and healing and spirituality, it was really difficult for me to be like, right, but how do I say this thing in a tangible way? And that has really stuck with me. And I mean, you taught some really cool things in the lab that I literally use all of the time so that
Yes.
I can understand how to clearly, like you say, meet clients and potential clients where they are, use their language. I knew that was important, but I didn't fully know how to do it in a logical, organized way that was tangible. And you literally teach people all the things that people hear about online business and you got to do this and do that. You actually teach people how to do it, which is really helpful because it's not just an idea or a phrase or a thing we should be doing. It's actually a thing that you're like, and here's how we do it so that
Oh,
you can implement it in your business too. Like that has been wonderful. So,
oh, thank you. You're making my heart feel so full right now. I'm so grateful. I remember back to a time. So I think sometimes, let me frame this up first. Is when we're thinking about the framework, it might feel like it doesn't directly connect to ROI, like return on investment financially. And you shared something I don't remember honestly if it was in the lab or if it was after, because you also decided to stay with us on this journey and become a member of the BDC. But you shared, and I talk about you in my signature framework workshop because I just think it's so powerful. Is you were on a prospective sales call with a client, and she was having, and to your point, I think this is where in the beginning you've really refined this, is you tend to like over talk, and didn't know how to clearly articulate the results that the client would get through coming through your coaching, which is a common struggle for all of us. We all start there. And so you got permission to share your actual physical framework image that everybody walks away with from the lab. We give you templates even to use. And you shared this. And when she was able to see this visual of your framework, the energized leader formula basically that you shared, and this kind of pyramid framework visual that you've created around it, she got this immediate like light bulb, like, oh, that's where we're going. She could see the steps, or really the foundational elements that you offer, and where she's going to be after she works with you. And then it was an immediate yes to move on. And so I want you just to speak to that experience, and what was your like, oh my gosh, like moment when you could see like, okay, I invested honestly, like the FBL is less than $300, you guys. And now it's like thousands of dollars now ROI from a client saying yes. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, and I'd love to share two stories because I've shared it with prospective clients. So in that story, um, it was helping her. My framework has like three key sections: the foundation, the focus, and flourishing. And it was helping her to understand that in our first couple months together, we would literally build the foundation. So assessment, understand where she's at, and then all the support that she needs to start to see those baselines change in her life. Um, and then the second part of my framework is where we really focus in on like the design of your life and how that is going to align with all the things that are important and the impact that you want to make. So the image helped her to see, ooh, we're spending the first 6 months like just getting supported before I even step into worrying about how that's going to look externally in my life. It's like focusing on filling up my cup again. And again, most people, when they find me, their cup's either running on empty or close to empty. So just helping her understand, like, we're going to pump the brakes, as sometimes Amanda says, we're going to pump the brakes on this being all about the external focus, and we're going to come back to you. And that just helped her to be able to reframe like where we were going. And then the last part is, for mine, is flourishing. So it's really about mastery of the skills and the support and designing and aligning your life. And then the impact you're going to make. So it was able to help her just step back from that go, 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 can't stop. It's all about the external to let's support you first. And then we're going to get to those other things. It's just literally permission for her to put herself first. And I
I love
think
that.
having an image to show that was also really helpful. And then with one of my current clients I had shared it with, she'd worked with me already for years. She's known me for a long time. She's known all the iterations of my business. And I showed it to her and she's like, yes, that captures everything I know about you and what we've done
Oh,
together and where we are going. And so it was beautiful to see that it was congruent with new people, new clients, but also with people who've known me for years and seen, my evolution journey in business.
so awesome. I love hearing that. I'm so excited for you. And I'm excited for me because one of the things that happened after FBL is you jumped into the BDC as well because you loved, obviously my style and the results you had in the FBL and decided to become a member of the BDC. Love having you in there. You're super intentional with your choice. You elevate the collective energy and inquisitive nature of the group, which I so appreciate. But I'd love to know why. Why did you decide to jump into the BDC?
Yeah, well, there was three reasons. One of them was I literally, well, I kind of manifested working with you. I really did feel like I know that I've been trained in coaching, but I had done so many other things for so many years. And even though coaching was integrated in many ways, I've never led with I'm a coach.
Hmm.
And so I did feel like something inside of me wasn't quite like fully integrate it in again my identity of like I am a coach, I am a masterful coach, I am the best damn coach. Like I didn't fully feel that confidence, even though I knew that was in me. I've wanted to be a coach for since I was in my teenage years. And so there was that part of me that before I even met you, I was like, but how do I develop that confidence without getting another certification? Because I literally have a ton of
Yes,
certifications.
yes.
I
Say that louder for everybody
yeah.
in the room in the far back rows.
Because all of us, I know people who find Amanda, like, you're all well certified, you're all beautiful human beings. It's not really about that. It is about the identity and the confidence and the clarity of like, this is who I am in the world, this is what I'm doing in the world, and I feel comfortable standing up and saying that on the platforms I'm on.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so that was number one. I literally was calling that into my life, and then you came across my path. And then you and I had chatted over Instagram, and I was like, I'm not sure, I'm trying to make the decision. And you were like, well, maybe there's some foundational things that you could still receive support in. And that really hit a light bulb for me, because I thought, you know what, there's probably some truth to that. I'm not even sure what those foundational things are yet, but it rang true that, like, yeah, I want to make sure my foundation is strong, just like I want to make sure my client's foundation is strong. And I got an intuitive message the night before I signed up that was just like, this is going to be what you need for the next step of your journey. So I followed that.
I think it's
Yeah.
I wanna pause because you just really highlighted I think sometimes when it comes to investing, I feel charged up right now. My, like, heart is racing a little bit because I think sometimes when we are looking for mentorship and we're ready to take a next move is we really want the logical side of our brain to give us all of the X's and O's and yeses and nos and check all of the boxes. But I really think about it that the times I've made the best investments in my business actually were the times I most listened to the intuitive yes and was obedient to that internally. Whether you it's God, whether it's like spirit source, whatever it is for you. For me, it's like when I listen to the obedience of that internal self-trust, it's been the best moves I've made personally in my business. I mean, I hope it is for you too, after saying the BDC was one of them. But I love how you highlighted it's just a self-trust sometimes. And we take that leap of faith and we trust that the right person showed up at the right time in our life, both me for you and you for me. And so much goodness happens when we go in and we just trust that, like, this is the path and it's going to turn out even better than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, that has been my forte in working with people for a very long time, is trusting their intuition and themselves. And so it's like, who would I be if I didn't follow that
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
own
sure. We have
life?
to model. Yeah, totally.
And I would just like to say, like, I a lot of my business was built in person, locally where I live in Canada. And so going into the online business world a few years ago, I mean, it is a different world than running business in person. In my experience, it has been. And so there is a lot to learn. There is a steep learning curve of like navigating who to support you in the online business world. And I have invested in lots of different programs. And I do just love that your program offers the how to and the foundational elements that sometimes are missed in other programs. I do feel like you offer a lot of, there's a lot of substance.
Mm,
There's a lot of substance, and it is both the more hard or technical skills that we need as coaches, but it's also more of those soft intuitive skills, and you do bring it together quite lovely. And because I had invested in other programs before, I knew that it's worth investing in ourselves, it's worth investing in our businesses. But I can appreciate that if someone is very new to coaching or very new to business or very new to online business, it might be a scarier leap. And I would just say, like, Amanda is a trusted source. Like, you can trust what she is sharing in the world. And I feel like any of your clients would say that. It wouldn't just be me. But I know, like, it's our business is our baby. Our coaching practice is our baby in many ways. Like, it's
totally.
vulnerable as we build it. And we do want to get support from someone that we can trust is going to hold that vulnerability and take us further than we can go on our own. And so I do feel like you offer that. Now that I've been in the BDC for several months, like, I can confidently say that. So,
Wow, that's
yeah.
So appreciated. I like that. I mean, trust is everything. I think, and I just think that it's not about me, it's about the integrity of the coaching space in general.
Mhm.
And I think there's many coaches out there that do invest in experiences and then they get inside and it was a bit of bait and switch or they're left floundering. And I mean, there's ownership, right? There has to be ownership on both parts. I can only do so much. Like if I give you this content and you never log in, like that's on you, right? If you never show up to the calls, that's on you. But by golly, like if you come into my calls and you absorb the content, you are going to be a changed person. And I think that that's up to all of us, you guys listening, Erica and myself. We have an obligation if we have gifts to uphold the integrity of who we serve. And I think it's my belief that like it's our mission to change the footprint of the world and to leave a legacy, but that is done best with integrity and giving our clients exactly what they have signed up for. And if they're not getting something that we need, it's the also the willingness to be like, I'm gonna go create that for you. I love that idea. Like, let me show up. It's that also that beginner of not saying like this is the best. I keep always saying like it can only get better. So if I always tell you guys if there's something out there that's missing, you guys tell me because I want to create it for you. And I want to make sure that the BDC is a place where coaches don't have to look outside, that it's literally any coach can come in here and build and grow no matter kind of what level they are, because we have coaches making six and multiple six figures, we have coaches on their way to their first 30 and 50. So I mean there is a diversity here, but there is something for everyone. So thank you for saying that. I'm curious, what's been the one piece of content or something that you've implemented? I kind of maybe know what it is for you, but I'm curious how you'll answer this question, that has rocked your world, that has been like the biggest game changer for your business and for your confidence so far.
Oh yes. Are you referring to the goat week?
Oh no, actually I was thinking it
Oh,
was going to be something different, but I like that. I like that
oh, what
either
were you
way.
thinking it was going to be?
I was going to be thinking it was my templates for setting up your presentations, because I know that that was really key for you to have a template and the way you show up and your tendencies to overteach and like give too much, and that's helped you get more clear. But
Oh,
hey, maybe it's both.
it's literally both. So let me say this. I've been in the BDC for several months now. So one of the very first things after the framework, because that was the first thing I really implemented, and I was like, this is going to be a game changer. The next thing I started implementing was, and maybe you can remind me exactly what it's called, but it is like the framework for teaching workshops,
Yeah,
whether free or like in your actual programs. And that has been revolutionary for me because I am an overgiver. I do love to teach. I do love to coach. I do love to give. And I was not realizing that it was almost too much and that maybe people weren't able to like absorb it all or receive it all. And I now use that template for all of my weekly group sessions. I use it for all of my like free or low investment workshops. It has been a gem. And again,
I
it
love
just
it.
helps to organize your thoughts. It just helps to make sure you're taking someone on a journey, not giving too much that they can't absorb it, but enough that they get what they came for. I literally love it. And then the
Yes.
other thing that you taught at the beginning of the year was how to run the GOAT week, or the greatest
Oh
of all
yeah.
time week. And that has been really helpful for me, again, at the stage of business that I'm at, just to get really prioritized and make sure that I'm focusing on, I think, as you call it, or someone else calls it, like the high leverage activities.
HLA. Yep.
Yes. And so that this year has been very big for me to implement. And I was already doing some really great scheduling work that I had learned from one of another coach that I was working with, but combining what I had learned there with what you were teaching, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is taking it to the next level." And it literally has been amazing.
I love hearing
So,
that.
I'm
Yes.
so grateful for that.
Amazing. Erica, you're a gem. I'm so grateful that you took this time to just celebrate yourself, talk about your work, and how having a framework and becoming a member of our communities has, positively shifted your business. I would love for you to share with our listeners, where can they learn more about your work and connect more with you? Either just to watch your business grow, or if they are your ideal client and want to learn more about your work, where's a great place to connect with you?
Yeah. So a great place to connect if they just want meditation, yoga classes, things that are inspiring, is my YouTube page, Erica Blackburn on YouTube. If anyone wants to connect and be a bit more engaging, LinkedIn is a great place, Erica Blackburn on LinkedIn. And then if they're ready to talk or learn more about me in depth, my website at ericablackburn.com is a great place to get that more in-depth information and even book a chat with me if they'd like.
Awesome. And we're going to put all of those links in the show notes, the little backlinks to all your handles and website. And I'm just so pumped that you could spend the time with us and honored to be, alongside you in your journey for sure. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amanda.